Well, thank you very much, friends, brothers and sisters. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Joe, and I really appreciate it. And congratulations to your executive team and your president on your re-election. Congratulations on behalf of all the Canadian public in Canada. I want to say that it was great to be brought in by Randy Backman, who is from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. He bought that guitar in Nanaimo for $79. It's worth a little bit more now. Thank God he's keep on playing. But you may not know, a lot of people in the business community use that as a kind of a national anthem in terms of business, taking care of business. But the last verse of that song says, "And I'd rather be fishing." So it's really important to remember and keep that in perspective in terms of Canadian values. You got to work hard, you got to fish hard, and you got to work together. I want to say to the Boilermakers that it was my distinct pleasure to work as Premier of the province, which is the same as Governor in the United States, to work with the Boilermakers on job creation, on many projects, but most importantly, we worked together on workplace safety and health in our province, and we hope it made a difference in our country. We had a situation in our province where if a miner was killed in an accident that could have been prevented by having a berm to prevent equipment from going down 300 feet, the company was not required to implement mitigation measures in other operations, and we had another miner lose his life about 3 weeks later in the same company. And I said to the workers when I was in opposition, and we were able to deliver in government the strongest workplace safety and health laws in the country, so no more workers would die going down a mine shaft when we could stop it with strong laws and strong inspections at the workplace. And we quadrupled the number of inspectors, and the Boilermakers were on the front line of giving us great research of how we could save lives and save lost productivity by having some of the best workplace safety and health laws anywhere in the country. I strongly recommend it to any jurisdiction, and I strongly recommend they listen to the Boilermakers to make sure they get it right for workplace safety and health in their jurisdictions. Now, we in Canada are united at this convention, the Boilermakers from the United States and Canada, and we're also united in many international efforts across the world. I want to say that Canada, after 9/11, went into Afghanistan with our military. We've been there with the United States since the unspeakable acts of terrorist activity in the 9/11 successful attempts in New York and Pennsylvania and in Washington, and our soldiers have been standing side by side with U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan since that date. And I just want to say on behalf of the Canadian public how very proud we are of not only working together, but how proud we are on the very successful mission conducted by the United States of America, the Navy SEALs that went in and led to the demise of Osama bin Laden, is something that Canada salutes and America salutes. And we applaud their bravery, their skill, their determination, and of course, the guts of that executive order from the President to make sure that that happened. It was a great day for democracy in all of our countries. Just like in Afghanistan and the First World War and the Second World War and the Korean War, we are working with you on the sanctions dealing with Iran. We are working with you in NORAD, where we've worked together for 53 years to protect the air and sea perimeter of Canada and the United States. And we're also with you in Libya. We have Canadian planes and Canadian military with the United States in Libya. We think that there's a score to be settled and democracy be supported in that country. And for those people that were victims of what happened tragically again on that flight, that Pan Am flight, Canada is there with the United States again, fighting on behalf of democratic values and fighting against a terrorist regime that deserves to be judged appropriately as opposed to being allowed to govern for decades in a row. So we are very, very proud to work with you in so many areas around the world. We also are very proud to work with Canada and United States in a united approach on the economy. We are against dumping of materials that affect jobs and have layoffs take place in either Canada and United States. We are opposed in Canada to currency manipulations that cost jobs in the manufacturing sector, either in Canada or in the United States. We are in favor of major capital programs, major capital projects, including the Detroit River Crossing in Detroit and Windsor, which is supported by labor on both sides of the border, so that we can get 20,000 people working, building a bridge across our country for trade, rather than being unemployed in the Michigan, Ontario region of the country. We are in favor of the new shipbuilding contract in Canada, $35 billion. And I guarantee you those contracts won't be awarded to a country outside of Canada and the United States. That $35 billion will be invested in shipbuilders and Boilermakers in Canada and in the United States. We're very, very proud of that. Thank you. We also believe, with the kind of advice we're getting from your union, the LMOs that you are signing with projects across the two countries, and I was talking about that this morning with Joe at breakfast and others, we believe that these LMOs should go across both our countries. And the Prime Minister and the President have signed an agreement to protect the border, using NORAD as an example, but we also signed an agreement to have regulatory reform. And we think regulatory reform should include the ability of workers with tickets and with skills to be able to work in both of our countries. When there's a job that needs to be done and a worker that needs a job, we should work together to make sure that happens. And I want to take that advice from the Boilermakers back to our national government and back to the American government to try to make that a much easier process for workers and their families between our two countries. And that's great advice that I've received since I've been here at this convention.